romance novel cover sort of field. It was just kind of a sweet song.
Hello VC, Plastic Eric here, Plastic Sound when cold, here with a Boxing Day edition of Collection Connection, the game that's just an excuse to talk about music. It's a game I play with my brother Bryce over on Good Show Ponsonby. He does his pick every Thursday. I make a connection to that. I do one on Monday. He makes a connection to that, does another one. So it's just a long chain of connections. So the last thing that my brother showed was Adam and the Ants, Kings of the Wild Frontier. Yeah, that album was kind of a big part of. I don't know about Bryce so much, but for me, I remember watching Adam and the Ants on Top of the Pops all the time. I remember when those were hits and all there, and it was interesting. I was looking up the information on that, and I saw that it made it into the number one album slot. Fell out because of John Lennon's death, basically, and then Phil Collins moved in, and then it was Kings of the Wild Frontier for like 10 weeks or something like that. With that Phil Collins face value, I thought, that's a connection. It was the album that got knocked out by, but we'd already done face value. And so I looked around a little bit more, and I noticed that it was produced by Chris Hughes. And that guy actually produced one of my favorite albums, actually. Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair. Fantastic album. I have the CD here, which has all like the bonus tracks on it, but I used to have the album, and I used to love playing that. That's one of those albums, this is one of those albums where if you listen to it in the car, kind of keeps you energized, it keeps you going while you're driving. But it's also one of those albums where you can totally just sit back and relax, and it just kind of makes you drift in between that being awake and being asleep listening to it. Absolutely great stoner album, even though it's not a psychedelic album, and their next album was more psychedelic. This has psychedelic qualities to it, but with a really nice 80s finish on it. I remember hearing these guys when I lived in England at the time. Mad World was a song that made it onto the charts. I know that there was another one too, but I can't think of what it is offhand. But this album, when it came out, I'd already been back to the States when it came out, and when I heard Everybody Wants to Rule the World, I thought, wow, that's such a cool little poppy song. Shout, I thought, was a good song too. And then when I finally got this album, I mean, it's one of the more solid albums out there. The only one that was iffy for me for a while was I Believe, because it was such a slow song and kind of just sachets in there, you know. But I've learned to appreciate that song. It makes the flow of the album. It's like one of those little quieter spots in the album, because the album is banging. It's loud. I even think it says something on here about this needs to be played loud. You know, I'll do the list here of the tracks. I mean, my favorite on here is probably either Head Over Heels or The Working Hour. I'm going to go with The Working Hour. The Working Hour has such a brilliant saxophone solo in it. I mean, these guys really did a good job of mixing it up on that album. Didn't get their next album, and I didn't get their recent one that they just put out, I guess, this year. I thought about it. I need to listen to it first. This is a really hard album to kind of come back from because it was so good. The whole thing's solid. And with that, I think I'm going to actually manage to do a short one here and beat my 5-minute mark. So I'm just counting down here. 3, 2, 1. It ain't just about the music. Bye.